I'm Wendy Gorham and I'm an Enterprise Coordinator within the East Sussex Careers Hub, which is based as part of East Sussex County Council, and it's co-funded with the Careers and Enterprise Company. Thank you very much for joining us for this session, which will be focusing on learning from career and labour market information. So what does that mean? Well, high quality labour market information is really important to help inform decisions for young people, for parents, for carers, and it can help with the choice of study options. It's a really changing landscape out there at the moment, primarily due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused some of our industries to expand and some of them to contract, but also created a lot of uncertainty, but also shown the importance of skills being transferable. So it is certainly very interesting times. So we're going to focus within this webinar on the landscape of labour market information, primarily within East Sussex, but obviously it's in the focus of the national picture. And I'm joined today by Sam Rhodes, and Sam is the Employability and Skills Project Coordinator at East Sussex County Council. And Sam is going to present to you the picture of labour market information as it stands at this present time. And as you can imagine, it's a very fluid, fast-moving landscape. But as either a careers leader or a teacher, that it's really useful for you to have a knowledge of what is happening in the labour market at the moment. So we hope it's helpful, and we hope that you will be able to use some of this information with your students so they have a greater understanding of the labour market information. You might be thinking, well, why do I need to know this? Well, it's really important because there have been studies that have shown that labour market information can have an impact on people's social mobility, have an increase on their knowledge, help with transition stages, and help them to connect and realise what other opportunities are available to them. So it's a really important topic, and we hope that you're going to find this interesting and useful. I will be coming back later on after Sam has presented to you about LMI. So I'm going to hand over to Sam.
Thanks, Wendy. Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Rhodes, and as Wendy says, I'm a project officer with the Employability and Skills team within East Sussex County Council. My job area is wide-ranging, and one of the most important aspects is collecting labour market information, which is used by the team and which I'm using today to underpin my presentation. So I've divided this presentation into two halves. For the first few slides, I'll be looking at what's happening to the local and national economy as a result of the pandemic and the lockdown. And then secondly, for the second half of the presentation, I'll be looking at what opportunities still exist now and hopefully in the near future, with a particular focus on these 6 key sectors for East Sussex: construction, engineering, creative, digital and media, health and social care, land-based and the visitor economy. For each sector, we do have a task group of employers and educationists who oversee skills and employment strategies for their sector in East Sussex. And it is from these employers that we've managed to get a lot of feedback of what is going on. Okay, so this is the first slide showing you some of the local and national statistics. This data came out in June 2020, and it shows you nationally what's happened to GDP output. And very worryingly, it's fallen by 20.4%. Just to show you how serious that is, if you look at the far right of the graph, you'll see the very steep drop there to minus 20.4% as a result of the pandemic. Now compare that to the financial crisis of 2008 to 2010, and you can see that looks like a mere blip compared to what's happened recently. And as we all know, that financial crisis of 2008 to 10 led to 10 years of austerity. And so this gives you an indication of what could be happening for us in the medium and long term. So to show you what has happened to sectors within our economy, this particular slide shows you some of the drops in the sectors. Now, there are no great surprises here, but you can see in red some of the sharp falls in some of the sectors, and only one sector, human health and social activities, shows a rise. I did want to point out one sector in particular, and that's accommodation and food services, which has dropped by -85%. Now, this is closely associated with travel and tourism and comes under the umbrella of the visitor economy, which, as you all know, is a very important sector for East Sussex. This slide shows the unemployment data which came out in June 2020. I'll just pick out a couple of important bullet points. Firstly, at the top there, you can see that in East Sussex, 20,775 unemployed claimants on JSA and Universal Credit recorded in May 2020. That is a rise of 160% compared to this time last year. Now, that rate for East Sussex does equate to the national average at 6.5%, but within our county we do have pockets of much higher figures, including Hastings at 9.1% and Eastbourne at 7.9%. Now, for most people watching this webinar, working with young people, you'll be most concerned to know what effect is this happening on that particular age group. And as in all economic crises, unfortunately, this is where the brunt of the negative effect falls. Already in East Sussex, we've seen a rise of from 4.9% to 8.2% of young people aged 18 to 24 claiming universal credit. Now, if you look at the graph on the right, you can see how serious an economic crisis falls upon younger people. Now, unemployment always falls heavy on the 18 to 24, and that happens even in good economic times. But if you look back at this graph, you can see in 2010 how there were figures of over 30% of GCSE leavers unemployed, and nearly 20% of degree holders and new graduates. Two other figures I want to show on this slide. Firstly, job vacancies have fallen by 60% from March to May in 2020, and job vacancy data is increasingly being used by economists and LMI and analysts as an indicator of how your economy is doing. The other statistic that we need to highlight is that in East Sussex, 58,900 are currently furloughed and over 26,000 are receiving self-employment income support scheme money. Now, as we all know, we're very worried as to whether how many people on the furlough scheme will still retain their job when the furlough scheme starts to wind down as we approach October 2020. So how has this lockdown affected employers in East Sussex? Well, as a result of what's been going on, the County Council has commissioned an economic recovery plan with 8 major ambitions to try and support the local economy. This plan is being put together by a management consultancy, and they have been using employers and educationists from our 6 sector task groups to get important feedback. Now, an indicator of what has happened is that in the months leading up to the pandemic and lockdown, we were arranging a large-scale careers campaign focusing on growth jobs in East Sussex, where employers were calling for more skilled people. Now, with the employers from the 6 sector task groups, we had identified 2 or 3 jobs from each sector which we all felt needed promotion because of skill shortages and difficulties trying to recruit people for these particular roles. Now, thankfully, in the last week or two, we've been meeting with the agencies who we were working with to arrange this careers campaign, and we have all agreed to carry on working together, but it will be a different type of careers campaign. It will now be one that focuses on getting the huge numbers of unemployed back to work as quickly as we can. So in these next 6 slides, I'm now going to have a slide for each sector showing the state of that sector before the pandemic and what feedback we've received as a result afterwards. Firstly, construction. Before the lockdown, we'd done some data analysis of job vacancies and we collected feedback from the employers on our construction task group. They had told us that for the original careers campaign, they had 4 particular roles that they felt needed promotion, including bricklaying, quantity surveying, project management and carpentry. And a number of construction employers are telling us that their business was suffering as a result of a lack of these roles. Well, obviously that has changed because of the economic situation, but we did meet recently as a construction task group and we did receive some really useful feedback. Firstly, that site work has been resuming, so there is work going on and recruitment is likely to resume. However, there will be a reduction in the number of apprenticeships advertised. Some employers are keen to maintain apprenticeship recruitment because they do have a number of people approaching retirement and they are worried that they are concerned that they avoid a skills drain which happened after the last economic crisis when they hadn't recruited apprentices and after work started to flow back in, they didn't have enough skilled people. In engineering, before the lockdown, jobs that were in demand included mechanical engineering technician, process engineer, electrical engineer and vehicle engineer. Now the message is still pretty much the same. The engineering employers told us as a result of the pandemic and lockdown, they still had a number of these vacancies, but they're still giving the same message as before the lockdown, and that is they wanted us working in schools and colleges to promote the roles and rewards of engineering to young people. And a particular message they were saying is that we have to tell young people that engineers can be heroes too. They make the ventilators, the PPE and medical equipment that saves lives and promotes modern treatments. Now, the creative, digital and media sector employers gave us 2 sets of feedback. Firstly, in digital, as you can imagine, there were a number of vacancies before the lockdown, and that is pretty much maintained. These jobs included software engineering, web development, cybersecurity officer, and data analysis. Unfortunately for the creative industry, they have suffered very badly because of the pandemic and lockdown, with a number of employees being furloughed. Now, before the lockdown, what was really encouraging, particularly for parents who worry about their young people having an interest in the creative sector, is that we did have a lot of local opportunities, including digital marketing officer, arts marketing officer and live technical officer work. Now, we do hope very much that these roles will resume, but it will take some time for this particular sector to recover. For health and social care, nothing has changed. This sector showed the greatest number of vacancies before the pandemic, and they were going to feature very heavily in the original aims of the careers campaign. 35,000 vacancies from 2016 to 29, with huge numbers of vacancies as a staff nurse, care worker, sonographer and radiography. This particular nursing and care work vastly outnumbered vacancies in all the other sectors. Now, since the lockdown, the number of vacancies is still huge, but there have been concerted efforts across the different bodies in this sector to attract more interest. Collaboration inspired by the COVID-19 crisis has included the Everyday is Different recruitment campaign, and also the Prince's Trust, which runs employability courses for 16 to 30-year-olds, focusing entirely on health and social care careers. The land-based sector is much smaller, but they still had a number of vacancies that needed promotion, including gardening, veterinary technician and nurse and landscape architect. Also, during the crisis, they have publicised that they needed 70,000 more people to help with picking work. A number of these jobs would have been taken by EU people coming across either on short or long-term visas, but because of the pandemic, they haven't come, and so more people are recruited and are needed from the UK. Now, the visitor economy sector is one that has been particularly hit. Before the pandemic, they had a huge number of vacancies in chef and catering work, In fact, they were only second compared to work in the health and social care. And there was also a major worry in this sector with the oncoming Brexit, because this is a sector that relies a lot on skilled and unskilled people coming from Europe. Now, this sector has had a recruitment crisis anyway, and now with social distancing as a result of the pandemic, which is likely to elongate the lockdown in particular venues, it is very difficult to see how the recovery will be immediate. However, we did have a meeting of the Visitor Economy Task Group a couple of weeks ago, and there are concerted efforts among employers to work on health and safety measures to make sure that visitor attractions, restaurants and hotels will be COVID compliant, and there will be work resuming as soon as possible in this sector. Okay, so those 6 slides have shown a number of gloomy outlook in terms of careers, but there are sectors that are still recruiting. In care, retail, delivery, farms and Royal Mail, they've all been advertising quite heavily on job vacancy boards. Also local government and civil service, warehouse, funeral care and financial services. Not huge numbers, as you can imagine, but there have been a number of opportunities that have been made available. Now, having been a careers advisor myself, I took the liberty of just putting down a few thoughts for people who are working with young people and adults looking for careers and jobs as a result of the crisis or as a result of leaving education. I won't go through all of these bullet points, but if I can just pick out one, that 4th bullet point down, and it says there, the first choice career may not be available yet, but as I've shown in the previous 2 slides, there are some jobs to apply for where you can get transferable skills and then go back to plan A. Every month I produce an LMI bulletin, which produces a mixture of resources for careers education leads and teachers working in schools and colleges, but also provides a number of websites where you can get job vacancies. This is just an extract from the June edition, and as you say, I can, and if you're interested, I can put you on my mailing list and I can send you this out every month. Okay, so that's my presentation, and now please I can hand you back to Wendy.
Thank you very much, Sam. That's a really useful and interesting to see the current and future labour market information. So really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. I'm going to come to a conclusion with this presentation just to let you know a little bit about what else East Sussex County Council is doing and some resources that you may be able to use. So we have produced some online family resources, which contains a range of links and activities with a career focus that can be shared with parents and carers and children across a range of ages. And we've also produced one which has a focus on young people who have special educational needs and disabilities. We're creating some employer videos with a variety of our employers. So one that we've already done is with a construction employer, and that has been focusing on what they'd be looking for from young people and how subject areas like maths and English are involved with careers. We also run, usually in the November time, we have an open doors scheme where normally young people go and look around workplaces, and we're looking about how we can make that much more digital. There are some virtual sessions, this one today that you're watching at the moment, but also there's some others that if you want to choose to go and watch, there's some based on careers in the curriculum. So if you're a subject teacher, there's one on that. There's another one about how to actually do a lesson about labour market information and others. So there are sessions that you can watch for perhaps some more information. We also have within East Sussex a special educational needs and disability community of practice, and this is where we've brought together people from different schools and colleges and other organisations like training providers and employers to give them the right support, advice and preparation to help those young people with their transition and through to post-16 learning. Sam's already mentioned his labour market information bulletin, and if you would like to receive that, please sign up and I'll give you the information for that at the end of this presentation. It's a really useful update on the current and projected climate. We have Career Hub newsletters, and we also help with transition support. So we are doing lots of different things and we can help you, and if you're not sure whether we can help you, then it might be worth sending us an email and we can have a conversation, and if we can help, we will do. So if you would like to contact us, please go to either the website, which is careerseastsussex.co.uk, that's careerseastsussex.co.uk, or if you want to sign up for the LMI bulletin or you want to send us an email, if you send that to Enterprise Coordinator at eastsussex.gov.uk. That's Enterprise Coordinator at eastsussex.gov.uk. We'll then pick that up and make sure that the relevant person gets back to you as soon as possible. So we hope that you found that webinar useful and interesting. It is a changing climate, and we may well have to do another one as things progress, but hopefully this has given you a little bit more of an insight and to the importance of realising that labour market information does need to be quality, and we do need to know what's going on out there. So thanks again to Sam for his input, and thank you to all of you for listening. Thank you. Bye-bye.